My 26M girlfriend, 24F, of 2 years chose her friend group over our relationship for the last time. I'm done. I don't even know where to start with this mess. I've been with Marissa for over 2 years now, and I thought we had something real. We moved in together 6 months ago, split everything down the middle, the whole domestic thing. But lately I've been feeling like I'm dating 5 people instead of one. Here's the thing, Marissa has this tight-knit friend group. Chloe, Adrian, Tasha, and Finn. They call themselves the Squad unironically and do literally everything together. Group chats going 24/7, matching Halloween costumes, the works. At first I thought it was sweet that she had such close friends. Now I'm wondering if I'm even in a relationship or just some guy who pays half the rent. The breaking point happened last weekend. Our 2-year anniversary was coming up, and I'd planned this whole evening. Made reservations at the place where we had our first real date, got tickets to see this band she's been obsessing over. Nothing crazy expensive, but thoughtful stuff. I found her in the living room, scrolling through Instagram stories of her friends' weekend adventures. "Hey, so I've got something special planned for our anniversary next Saturday," I said, sitting down next to her. She looked up from her phone and I swear her face just fell like I'd told her someone died. "Oh," she set the phone down slowly. "Oh babe, that's the same night as Tasha's birthday pregame. You know I can't miss that." I felt my stomach drop a little, but I tried to stay reasonable. "Well, what if you asked them if you guys could reschedule to Friday night instead? Or Sunday?" She was already shaking her head before I finished talking. No, you don't understand. Tasha specifically planned it for Saturday because it's literally the only night everyone can make it. Adrian's got that big work conference starting Sunday, and Chloe's been so stressed with her new job that she really needs this. And Finn just broke up with that girl he was seeing, so he needs us right now too. I watched her face as she talked, and she was getting more animated, like she was warming up to her argument. "We all really need this night, Ethan. The group hasn't been together properly in weeks." "But it's our anniversary," I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "This only happens once a year. You can see your friends literally any other time." That's when her whole demeanor changed. She sat back, crossed her arms, and gave me this look like I was being completely unreasonable. "Love can wait, but friendship can't. They were here before you and they'll be here after." I just stared at her. The words hit me like a physical blow. They'll be here after. Not if something happens to us. Not, God forbid, we ever break up. But a casual, matter-of-fact after. Like our breakup was already penciled into her calendar somewhere between next month's group vacation and Chloe's birthday party. After everything we've built together, I'm still just some temporary thing that can be rescheduled around brunch plans. This isn't the first time either. My graduation from my master's program. She went to Adrian's housewarming party instead. My brother's wedding last month. She was too exhausted from a 3-day festival with the Squad to come as my plus one. Even when my mom was in the hospital for her surgery, Marissa couldn't visit because it conflicted with their weekly game night. But she expects me to drop everything when she needs something. Last month she called me at 2 a.m. to pick her up from some dive bar across town because Finn was too drunk to drive responsibly. When I got there, she barely acknowledged me, just kept taking selfies with everyone while I stood there like an Uber driver. Then spent the whole ride home talking about drama between Chloe and some guy from the bar. The worst part is how she talks about our relationship to them. I overheard her on the phone with Tasha last week saying how I'm going through a jealous phase and need to learn to share her time better. Like I'm some insecure teenager instead of her partner who just wants to feel like a priority sometimes. I've tried talking to her about balance, about how relationships need nurturing too. She always promises to do better, then immediately makes plans that exclude me. When I point out the pattern, she accuses me of trying to isolate her from her friends. There's no winning. I'm writing this from a coffee shop because I couldn't stand being in our apartment anymore. I've been looking at places online all morning. Found a decent one-bedroom about 20 minutes away that I can afford on my own. The lease application is sitting in my email drafts. I love her, but I can't keep coming in sixth place in my own relationship. My friends think I should give her an ultimatum, but honestly, I'm tired of begging someone to want to spend time with me. Is it too much to ask that your girlfriend actually wants to be your girlfriend sometimes? Edit. Reading all these responses is really eye-opening. To everyone asking why I haven't just ended it, you're right. I keep hoping she'll realize what she's doing, but she's made it pretty clear where her priorities are. Going to submit that rental application when I get home. Update 1. Original post blew up way more than I expected. Thanks for all the support and advice. Wish I could say this story had a happy ending where we worked things out, but, well, you'll see. So I submitted the rental application that same day. Got approved within 48 hours, which felt like a sign. Spent the next week quietly moving my stuff whenever Marissa was out with the squad, which was convenient since that's basically every day. By the time she noticed something was up, I had already moved about 80% of my things. She came home Thursday night around midnight. Apparently they'd gone to some new rooftop bar that Finn wanted to try, and immediately saw that my gaming setup was gone. I heard her calling my name from the living room, her voice getting higher with each room she checked. Ethan, Ethan, what the hell is happening here? Where's all your stuff? I was in our bedroom packing the last of my clothes when she found me. She stood in the doorway for a moment, scanning the room like she was taking inventory of everything missing. Are you moving out? Her voice cracked a little on the last word. I handed her the letter I'd written. Tried to keep it simple and honest, that I needed to be with someone who actually wanted to prioritize our relationship, that I couldn't keep feeling like an afterthought in her life. She read it once quickly, then again slower, her eyes getting wider. When she looked up at me, it was like she was seeing a stranger. You're seriously leaving me because I have friends, because I won't ditch the people who have been there for me for years. I sat down on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. Marissa, it's not about you having friends. Then what is it about? She snapped, waving the letter. Because this whole thing reads like you want me to choose between you and everyone I care about. I want you to care about me too, I said quietly. I want to feel like I matter to you, like our relationship matters. She stared at me like I'd suggested something insane. Of course you matter, but I can't just abandon my friends every time you want attention. I felt something twist in my chest. Marissa, I asked you to spend one evening with me for our anniversary, one. And I explained why that night was important, more important than us. She threw her hands up. This is ridiculous, Ethan. You're throwing away 2 years because you can't handle me having a social life. You knew who I was when we started dating. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she genuinely didn't understand. In her mind, I was the problem. I was the one being unreasonable. I thought I knew who you were, I said, standing up and zipping the bag. I thought you were someone who wanted to build something with me. I do want to build something with you, but not if it means cutting off everyone else in my life. I'm not asking you to cut them off. I'm asking you to make space for me too. But she was already shaking her head, and I could see in her eyes that we were going to keep going in circles. She saw this as me being controlling. I saw it as basic relationship maintenance. There was no middle ground we were both willing to find. After another 20 minutes of the same arguments on repeat, I finally held up my hands. I'm done, Marissa. I'm done arguing about this. Done arguing or done with us. Both. The finality in my voice seemed to hit her then. Her whole posture changed, like she suddenly realized this wasn't just a fight we'd work through. That's when things got weird. She started following me around the apartment, listing all the things we'd shared, all the memories we'd made. But even then, every other sentence was about her friends. Remember when we went to that concert and ran into Chloe and Adrian? What about the time we cooked dinner for the whole squad? Like she couldn't even conceptualize experiences that were just about us. I told her I'd be back for the rest of my stuff over the weekend when she was at Tasha's pool party, because of course there was a pool party. Left my key on the kitchen counter and walked out, but apparently leaving wasn't enough for her. Saturday morning, I'm in my new place, finally feeling like I can breathe again, when my phone starts going crazy. Marissa's calling non-stop, sending paragraph-long texts about how we need to talk this through like adults. When I didn't answer, she started having the squad message me too. Chloe sent me this long text about how Marissa is devastated and I'm breaking up the family. Finn called me immature for ghosting instead of working things out. Adrian tried the reasonable approach, suggesting we all meet up to discuss things. Even Tasha, who I've maybe had 10 conversations with in 2 years, felt qualified to tell me I was making a mistake. The messages got more aggressive as the day went on. Stuff like, "You're going to regret this," and "Marissa deserves better anyway." By Sunday evening, they were calling me emotionally abusive for abandoning her without warning, despite the letter I'd left explaining everything. Then Monday night happened. I got home from work to find all 5 of them standing outside my new building. Marissa was in front, with the squad arranged behind her like some kind of intervention crew. She started talking as soon as she saw me, loud enough that neighbors were looking out their windows. "We need to settle this right now. You don't get to just disappear and ignore everyone. We're all adults here." I told them there was nothing to settle. I'd made my decision, I'd explained my reasons, and I wasn't changing my mind. That's when Finn stepped forward with this gem. "Dude, you're being a selfish piece of shit. Do you know how much you're hurting her? How much you're hurting all of us, all of them?" I asked what exactly I'd done to hurt people I barely knew. Apparently by dating Marissa, I'd become part of their family system, and leaving her was like abandoning all of them. You could only imagine the face I made while listening to this complete nonsense. It was literally the most codependent thing I'd ever heard. The whole thing was surreal. Chloe was crying. Adrian kept trying to mediate. Tasha was recording everything on her phone for evidence of what, I have no idea. And Marissa just stood there nodding along like this was all perfectly normal behavior. I told them they had exactly 30 seconds to leave my property before I called building security. When they didn't move and kept telling me to work things out like adults, I walked inside and did exactly that. Security came out and asked them to leave, which they did, but not before Marissa shouted that this wasn't over. That was 3 weeks ago. The calls and texts have finally stopped, but I still get the occasional message from a random number, probably one of them using someone else's phone. I doubt they would try to show up at my building again. Building management knows to watch for them now. I don't regret leaving, but I'm honestly shocked by how insane this got. Like, who brings their entire friend group to harass their ex? What kind of adult behavior is that? Update 2, back again with another update. Honestly didn't think I'd be posting more about this situation, but life has a sense of humor apparently. First off, things on my end are going really well. New apartment is great, work's been busy but rewarding, and I've been reconnecting with friends I'd kind of neglected during the Marissa years. Turns out when you're not spending every weekend being the designated driver for someone else's social circle, you have time for your own relationships. Who knew? But the real story here is what's been happening with Marissa and the infamous squad. My buddy Jake works with Adrian, and apparently the group dynamics have been shifting. Remember how I mentioned that Adrian was getting serious with his girlfriend Emma? Well, they got engaged 2 weeks ago. Emma's been pretty vocal about thinking the whole group setup is immature and has been pushing Adrian to establish better boundaries. According to Jake, Adrian's been slowly pulling back from the constant group activities. Missing the weekly hangouts, not responding to the group chat as much, actually prioritizing his relationship. Sound familiar? Marissa apparently lost her shit when Adrian said he couldn't do their annual weekend trip to the beach house because he and Emma had already planned a trip to visit her parents. "You're becoming just like Ethan," was supposedly her exact words. Because God forbid someone prioritize their romantic relationship over weekend beach trips. But it gets better. Chloe got a promotion at work that requires her to relocate to Portland. She's been trying to coordinate virtual hangouts and plan visits, but Marissa's been cold about the whole thing. Apparently she made some comment about how real friends don't abandon the group for career opportunities. Chloe is understandably hurt by this reaction to what should be good news. Then there's the Tasha and Finn situation. I never got the full story while I was dating Marissa, but apparently those two have had an on and off thing for years that everyone just pretends isn't happening. Well, it's happening again, but this time it's serious enough that they want to actually date instead of just hooking up after group events. Marissa is not handling this well because it changes the group dynamic, and she's worried about what happens if they break up. So let me get this straight. When I complained about feeling deprioritized, I was being controlling and selfish. But now when she's feeling deprioritized by her friends, suddenly it's a tragedy and everyone is abandoning her. The best part, and I'm getting this through Jake's girlfriend, who's friends with Emma, is that Marissa has been going around telling people that everyone is pulling an Ethan on her. Like wanting to grow up and build adult relationships is some kind of betrayal epidemic that I started. I don't think she even realizes no one is taking her seriously anymore. Meanwhile, I've been having actual fun for the first time in months. Went to a concert last weekend with some college friends who I hadn't seen in ages. No group coordination required. No one insisted on taking Instagram photos every 5 minutes, and I didn't have to leave early because someone needed emotional support for their latest drama. It was revolutionary. I've also been seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet, but Sarah is. Refreshing. She has close friends, but she also understands that relationships require one-on-one time to grow. Novel concept, right? We had dinner Friday night, just the two of us, and she didn't check her phone once. Didn't even occur to me how unusual that was until later. But here's where it gets really interesting. 3 days ago, I get a text from Marissa. First direct contact since the apartment building confrontation. Hey, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I feel like we both said things we didn't mean. What the hell? I just sat there staring at my phone for like a full minute. After months of complete silence and now this, it felt like getting sucker punched out of nowhere. I didn't respond immediately, but then yesterday she sent another one. I know I made mistakes. I was young and didn't understand how to balance everything. But I've been learning and growing, and I think we could try again if you're open to it. I showed the messages to Jake, and he just laughed. Apparently word has gotten back to Marissa that I've been doing well, that I'm seeing someone new, and that I seem genuinely happier. Jake thinks she's realizing that maybe having a devoted boyfriend wasn't such a terrible thing after all. The timing is pretty telling though. Right when her friend group is naturally evolving and she's facing the reality that people grow up and their priorities change, suddenly she wants to revisit our relationship. Where was all this learning and growing when I was begging her to understand my feelings for 2 years? I'm not responding to the messages. I don't owe her a coffee date or a chance to explain herself. I spent 2 years trying to get her to understand what I needed from a partnership, and she consistently chose to dismiss those needs. I'm not interested in being her backup plan now that her primary social structure is changing. Edit. Some people are asking if I think she's genuinely changed or if this is just convenience. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Even if she has learned something about relationships, I've moved on. I'm building something new with someone who already understands what partnership looks like. Why would I go backward? Final update. Probably my last post about this whole situation, but wanted to share how things wrapped up since so many of you have been following along. The Marissa text messages continued for about another week after my last update. Nothing aggressive or manipulative, more like she was trying to find the right combination of words that would get me to respond. A few highlights. I finally understand what you meant about balance. I see it now. The group isn't the same anymore. I think I was using everyone to avoid dealing with real intimacy. I miss talking to you, not even about getting back together, just talking. That last one almost got me. We did used to have great conversations, especially early in our relationship. But I reminded myself that good conversation doesn't mean good partnership, and I stayed silent. Things came to a head last Tuesday. Sarah and I were having dinner at this Italian place downtown when I spotted a familiar group at a corner table. Marissa, Finn, and Tasha. Adrian and Chloe were notably absent. Apparently Adrian was at some couple's thing with his fiancée, and Chloe was already in Portland setting up her new life. Marissa saw me before I could suggest we leave. Our eyes met across the restaurant, and I could see her debating whether to come over. Sarah noticed me tense up and asked if everything was okay. I explained the situation briefly. She knew I had an ex who'd been reaching out, but not the full drama. To her credit, Marissa didn't cause a scene. She just gave me a small wave, then seemed to have an animated conversation with Finn and Tasha. I figured that was the end of it, but as Sarah and I were leaving, Marissa approached us near the exit. "Ethan, hey. I don't want to interrupt your evening, but could I talk to you for just a minute?" Sarah squeezed my hand and said she'd wait by the car, probably the most graceful way anyone's ever handled meeting their partner's ex. Marissa looked different, tired maybe, or just older. She started talking quickly like she'd rehearsed it. "I know you haven't been responding to my messages, and I understand why. I just wanted to say that you were right about everything. About the balance, about priorities, about what a real relationship should look like. I see Adrian with Emma and I watch how they support each other, and I realize I never did that with you." I told her I appreciated her saying that, but it didn't change anything between us. "I know, I'm not asking for another chance. I just needed you to know that I understand now. And I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry for how I treated you and how I reacted when you left." It was the first time she'd actually apologized without any qualifiers or excuses. She looked over at Sarah in the parking lot and smiled sadly. "She seems lovely. I hope she appreciates what she has." And that was it. She went back to her table, I went to my car, and Sarah asked if I was okay. I realized I actually was. The ironic epilogue to all this. I heard through Jake that the squad is essentially done. Adrian's fully committed to his new life with Emma and barely talks to the group anymore. Chloe's loving Portland and has made friends through work. Tasha and Finn are dating now, but apparently want space from the group dynamic that complicated things for so long. Marissa's been trying to keep the group together, planning events and sending nostalgic messages about the good times. But you can't force people to stay in a dynamic they've outgrown. She's learning what I tried to tell her months ago, that relationships, all relationships, require mutual investment and understanding. When people feel like they can't be authentic or pursue their own growth, they leave. As for me and Sarah, things are progressing nicely. She met some of my friends last weekend, and it was effortless. No one felt like they had to perform or compete for attention, just adults hanging out and getting to know each other. She's been talking about maybe taking a weekend trip together next month, just the two of us. The fact that this seems normal and exciting rather than selfish or threatening tells me everything I need to know about the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationship patterns. I don't wish anything bad for Marissa. I hope she figures out how to build connections that don't require her to sacrifice other important relationships. But I'm glad I had the courage to walk away when I did. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is refuse to accept being treated like an option. Thanks for all the support throughout this whole saga, Reddit. Time to close this chapter permanently and focus on the new one. Wait, hold on, everyone. We're still missing one very special guest. That's what I said into the microphone, champagne in hand. 62 people staring at me, my fiancée standing 3 feet away with her ex-boyfriend's cologne still fading off her skin. She didn't know I knew. She didn't know about the hotel receipts, the burner app, the Thursday yoga classes that smelled like Drakkar Noir and poor decisions. She didn't know I'd spent the last 3 weeks turning our engagement party into the most elegant ambush in the history of suburban Virginia. And she definitely didn't know about Olivia. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Because a good detonation requires context, and I'm an architect. I appreciate structure. My name's Daniel Prescott. 36, residential architect, own my own firm in Alexandria, Virginia. The kind of firm that designs houses for people who use summer as a verb. It's good work, pays well, lets me build things that last, which turns out to be a quality I value more than most. I bought my house 4 years ago, a renovated colonial in Old Town. 4 bedrooms, original hardwood, a kitchen I redesigned myself with a 12-foot island and pendant lighting that cost more than my first car. The backyard has a flagstone patio, a built-in gas grill, and a Japanese maple that turns the whole yard amber in October. It's my house. I mention this because it becomes relevant. Jessica Calloway moved in 18 months ago. We'd been dating for about a year at that point. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, the kind where you're basically a professional smiler who takes doctors to expensive lunches. She was good at it, charismatic, quick, the kind of woman who could walk into a room of strangers and leave with 6 new best friends and someone's business card. I met her at a client's housewarming. She was leaning against the kitchen island, ironic, given how things turned out, laughing at something, holding a glass of rosé like it was a natural extension of her hand. She caught me looking and didn't look away. Most people glance and reset. Jessica held. "You designed this kitchen, didn't you?" she said. "How'd you know?" "Because you've been staring at the backsplash for 10 minutes like a proud father." I laughed. She laughed. We exchanged numbers over the cheese board. 3 dates later, she was spending weekends at my place. 6 months after that, she had a drawer, then a closet, then half the bathroom counter. The early months were solid. Not fireworks and butterflies solid. I was past that by 36. More like infrastructure solid. We cooked together on Sundays, took the dog to the waterfront, talked about trips we'd take. She had this way of listening when I talked about design that made me feel like what I did mattered beyond square footage and building codes. She told me I was the first man who ever made her feel safe. That word again. Safe. The relationship equivalent of a padded room, but I didn't catch it then. I was too busy being reliable. When Jessica's apartment lease expired, she moved into my place with a U-Haul and the assumption that my mortgage was now her shelter. She never offered to split anything. Not the mortgage, not the utilities, not the property tax that hit every December like a polite mugging. I didn't ask because asking felt petty, and she never volunteered because it never occurred to her that she should. I covered the dinners, every single one. The sushi place in Georgetown she loved, the tasting menu in Old Town she wanted for her birthday, the weekend trip to Charlottesville where she maxed out a wine club membership on my card and called it investing in us. When her car needed new brakes, I drove it to the shop, paid the bill, and picked it up on my lunch break. When her laptop died 2 weeks before a quarterly review, I bought her a new MacBook and set it up with all her files. She kissed me and said, "What would I do without you?" which I was starting to realize was less a question and more a mission statement. I designed a custom walk-in closet for her, not a quick IKEA job, real cabinetry, built the shelving myself, cedar lining, recessed lighting on a dimmer. It took 3 weekends and a back spasm that lasted a week. She posted it on Instagram with the caption "blessed" and 3 heart emojis, 200 likes. Zero mention of who built it. My contribution to the post was the closet. Hers was the filter. There was the night she called at midnight from a bar in DuPont Circle. Her friends had left. She was tipsy and couldn't get a ride. I was already in bed, alarm set for 5:30 because I had a site inspection in the morning. I got dressed, drove 35 minutes into the city, found her sitting on a bench outside the bar, heels in her hand, scrolling her phone. "My hero," she said, climbing into my truck. She fell asleep before we hit the highway. I carried her inside, took off her shoes, set water and Advil on the nightstand, got 3 hours of sleep before my alarm went off. She was still sleeping when I left. She didn't mention it the next day. Not a thank you, not a sorry for the late night. It had simply been absorbed into the operating assumption of our relationship. Daniel handles things. After a year of cohabitation, I proposed. Simple, private, just us on the patio under that Japanese maple with the amber leaves falling. I designed the ring setting myself, had a jeweler in Georgetown execute it. Emerald cut, platinum band, Art Deco Milgren. Because I'm an architect and even my proposals have blueprints. She said yes, cried, kissed me, posted the ring from 4 different angles before the tears dried. We set a date. I started planning the engagement party at the house. 60+ guests, catered, string lights across the patio, the works. And that's when Jessica suggested, with the casual precision of a woman who'd rehearsed the line in the mirror, that we invite Ryan. He's just a friend now, Daniel. We dated ages ago. It would be weird not to invite him. Ryan Gallagher. I knew the name. Jessica had mentioned him early on, the ex from before me, the one she described as a phase and way too immature. The kind of summary that's supposed to close a chapter, except chapters don't usually text each other at 11 p.m. on weeknights. I didn't say that. What I said was, sure, if it's important to you. What I thought was, why would a woman who described her ex as immature and irrelevant insist on his presence at her engagement party? The math didn't add up. And I do math for a living, not the theoretical kind. The kind where if you get it wrong, a building falls down. So I started paying attention, not snooping, observing. There's a difference and it matters to me. I didn't go through her phone. I didn't install spyware. I just opened my eyes, which I realized had been conveniently closed for about 6 months. The Thursday yoga classes. Jessica left every Thursday at 6, gym bag over her shoulder, hair freshly done, who does their hair before hot yoga, and came back around 9, glowing and so relaxed. Except her yoga mat stayed in the same corner of the hallway every Thursday night. Bone dry. Strap still buckled exactly the way I'd hung it 3 weeks ago. I put a small piece of tape on the buckle one Thursday morning. That night when she came home flushed and centered, the tape was undisturbed. The phone habits. She'd started sleeping with her phone face down on the nightstand, used to charge it in the kitchen. Now it went wherever she went, like a small rectangular bodyguard. She changed her passcode twice in 1 month. When I walked into a room, she'd swipe away whatever was on screen with the casual speed of someone who'd practiced the motion. The mood shifts. She'd come home from yoga bubbly, affectionate, guilty affectionate, the kind where someone kisses you a little too long because they're compensating for something they did an hour ago. She'd crawl into bed and press against me and whisper, "I love you," with an intensity that felt less like devotion and more like rehearsal. The wardrobe changes. New underwear. Not the comfortable kind she wore around the house. The kind that comes in tissue paper and costs more per square inch than Italian marble. She'd buy it and it would disappear into her gym bag on Thursdays and reappear in the laundry on Fridays, hand wash only. And the receipts. I handle our shared credit card statements because Jessica hates spreadsheets. 2 charges at a boutique hotel in Arlington, $189 each, Thursday dates, room charges. She'd listed them as client dinner expenses. Client dinners don't have checkout times. I sat with this for about a week. Processed it the way I process a structural flaw. You don't panic. You don't demolish the building. You assess the damage, identify the load paths, and plan your remediation. Through a mutual acquaintance, Derek, commercial real estate, knows everyone, I confirmed 2 things. 1, Ryan and Jessica had not stopped seeing each other. Derek had seen them at a restaurant in Clarendon, sitting close, sharing a plate in a way just friends don't. 2, Ryan had a girlfriend, a serious one. Her name was Olivia Torres, 31. Attorney, corporate law at a firm in Tysons. The kind of woman who bills at $400 an hour and does not suffer fools. Ryan was cheating on her too. 2 women, 2 lies. One jawline holding the whole operation together. I sat on this for 3 days. The old me would have confronted Jessica. Yelled, maybe thrown something. But I'm 36. I'm an architect. I don't demolish buildings in anger. I demolished them on schedule with permits after evacuating the civilians. I had a better idea. I found Olivia through LinkedIn, sent a short message. Ms. Torres, my name is Daniel Prescott. I believe we have a mutual problem named Ryan Gallagher. I have documentation. I'd appreciate 15 minutes of your time. She responded in 20 minutes. Coffee, tomorrow, name the place. We met at a cafe in Falls Church. Olivia was exactly what I expected. Sharp eyes, Controlled posture, charcoal blazer and no jewelry except a thin watch. I laid everything out. The hotel receipts, the Thursday pattern, Derek's confirmation, the Instagram engagement metrics which I'd charted on a spreadsheet because, again, architect. Olivia looked at all of it. Her face didn't change, just a slow, precise recalibration, like a GPS recalculating after a wrong turn. How long? She asked. At least 6 months from what I can confirm. She nodded, sipped her coffee, set it down with both hands. What's your plan? I'm throwing an engagement party at my house, Saturday the 19th. Jessica insisted on inviting Ryan. I'd like to invite you. She held my gaze, not flirtation, alliance. I'll be there. What time? 8 o'clock, but you arrive at 8:45. I'll cue your entrance. She almost smiled. You've thought about this. I design buildings, Ms. Torres. Timing is everything. Call me Olivia. Daniel. We shook hands. The pact was sealed over a $5 Americano. Two strangers bonded by the same lie, about to deliver the truth at the same party. The 3 weeks before the party were the strangest of my life. I had to be two people simultaneously. Person one was the happy fiancé, taste-testing catering menus, approving flower arrangements, discussing playlist options with the DJ Jessica insisted we hire, smiling at her across the breakfast table while she talked about centerpieces and seating charts. Person two was the demolition engineer, confirming RSVPs, testing the microphone, making sure the patio lighting was positioned so every face would be visible when the moment came, installing a second set of string lights along the walkway from the side gate because Olivia would need a clear, well-lit path. Jessica was oblivious, too busy being the bride-to-be, trying on outfits, getting her nails done, FaceTiming friends about the party. She'd spin in front of the bedroom mirror and ask, "How do I look?" "Perfect," I'd say, and I meant it. She looked like a woman who had no idea what was coming, perfectly unaware. The hardest part was Thursday, 4 days before the party, yoga night. She grabbed her bag, kissed my cheek. I could smell the new perfume, the one I didn't buy, and said, "Don't wait up." I watched her taillights disappear. She was going to sleep with another man and come home to my house and crawl into my bed with his aftershave still on her skin. My hand tightened on the counter, granite cold under my fingers. I counted to 10. Then 20. Then I poured a glass of the same wine I'd be serving Saturday and reminded myself, 4 more days. She came home at 9:30, showered, always a shower after yoga, and climbed into bed still damp. "How was class?" I asked from behind my book. "Amazing, new flow, I'm so sore." "Must have been intense." "So intense." I turned a page, the words blurred, but my voice stayed level and person one held the line. Saturday the 19th. The house looked incredible. Patio strung with warm Edison bulbs, bar stocked with top-shelf everything. Catered apps, prosciutto, wrapped figs, tuna tartare, a charcuterie spread that looked like edible architecture. 62 RSVPs, my people, her people, work friends, college friends, neighbors. Jessica worked the room like she was running for office, hugging everyone, showing the ring. I was at the bar playing host, being the happy fiancé. Ryan Gallagher showed up at 8:15, solo, dark sport coat over a black tee, the kind of outfit that says I'm casually better than everyone here. He walked up, extended his hand. "Daniel, great party, man, congrats." I shook it, firm, steady. "Ryan, glad you could make it." I watched his eyes slide past me to find Jessica across the patio, the conspiratorial glance, the micro smirk, the silent signal, "I'm here, we're getting away with it." I poured him a bourbon, neat. "Enjoy the party." "Will do, brother, brother." The audacity of that word in his mouth was almost impressive. For 30 minutes I observed. Ryan positioned himself close enough to Jessica for glances, far enough for deniability. She'd brush past and their hands would touch for a fraction of a second. He'd tell a joke and look at her for the reaction, not the group. They thought they were invisible, they were predictable, and I'd mapped every move. At 8:40 I texted Olivia, 5 minutes, reply parked, ready. I picked up the microphone, tapped it twice. "Hey everyone, can I get your attention?" Chatter faded. 62 faces turned. Jessica materialized at my side, champagne in hand, beaming. She slipped her arm through mine. First, thank you, all of you. Tonight's supposed to be about love, commitment, and honesty. I let that word sit. Honesty. Jessica and I have been through a lot to get here, but before we toast, I have to be honest about something. We're still missing one very special guest. Someone I personally invited because she deserved to be here. Jessica's brow creased. Who? The side gate opened. Olivia Torres walked across the patio like a closing argument. Black dress, heels clicking on flagstone with the precision of a metronome. No smile, no hesitation. The crowd parted without being asked. Two things happened simultaneously. Jessica's champagne hand lowered. The glow on her face dimmed like a light on a switch. And Ryan Gallagher's bourbon froze halfway to his mouth. His tan went gray. His jaw, that famous load-bearing jaw, went slack. Olivia stopped in the center of the patio, looked directly at Ryan. Hey babe, she said, clear, conversational. Surprised to see me? Ryan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Olivia reached into her clutch, manila envelope, small, efficient, hotel receipts, text screenshots, timestamps matching Jessica's yoga schedule to the minute. She placed them on the high top table next to Ryan. The way a lawyer presents evidence, because she was one. 6 months, Olivia said, not loud, didn't need to be. The patio was silent enough to hear ice settling in someone's glass. 6 months you've been sleeping with the bride-to-be, while living with me, while telling me I was paranoid. Ryan's voice surfaced. Thin. Liv, this isn't what it. The slap was fast, targeted. Open palm to left cheek. Sound echoed off the brick facade. His head snapped sideways. Hand went to his face. Nobody moved. That's for the gaslighting, Olivia said. The rest my lawyer will handle. And then Jessica did exactly what I knew she would. What her instincts demanded, what would prove everything. She stepped in front of Ryan, not beside him. In front, shielding him. The way a wife protects her husband. The way a woman protects the man she actually loves. At her own engagement party, in front of 62 witnesses, with her fiancé holding the microphone 3 feet away. What the hell is wrong with you? Jessica shouted at Olivia. You don't come into someone's home and assault people. Your home, Olivia interrupted. Quiet, lethal. Sweetheart, this isn't your home, it's his. She nodded toward me. Then she picked up a glass of red wine from the nearest table and threw it. Full commitment. The wine hit Jessica across the chest and sprayed upward into Ryan's face. They both gasped. Jessica's white dress bloomed with deep crimson that spread like a verdict. Olivia straightened her dress, turned to the crowd. I'm so sorry for the interruption, everyone. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Then she turned to Jessica. Wine dripping off her chin, mascara starting to run. One hand still gripping Ryan's arm, gripping, not letting go, because even now, even caught, her body chose him. Olivia delivered the final line with surgical precision. You shielded him like a devoted wife just now. Very impressive. But you might want to remember your actual fiancé is still standing right over there. She pointed at me. Every head turned. I raised my glass. Took a slow sip. The wine was excellent. I'd picked it myself. Olivia walked back across the patio, through the side gate. Gone, clean exit, no lingering, just devastation, delivered on schedule, under budget, like a good demolition. The silence lasted 10 seconds, felt like 10 minutes. Jessica turned to me, wine-soaked, trembling. Daniel, don't. I set my glass down. Crystal met granite with a sound I'll remember forever. Clean. Final, I picked the microphone back up. I appreciate everyone coming tonight, but the engagement is officially off. I turned to Jessica. Wet dress, smeared makeup, red wine in her hair. You have 24 hours, pack your things, everything that's yours, leave the key on the counter, don't contact me. Daniel, please, it's not what? Jessica. I said her name like a word I was retiring from my vocabulary. You just shielded the man you've been sleeping with behind my back. At our engagement party, in my house, in front of everyone we know, there is nothing left to understand. Ryan slipped through the gate like smoke. I never saw him again. Jessica stood on my patio in the dress bought with my card, wearing my ring. The ring I'd designed. The setting I'd sketched on a Sunday morning while she was at brunch. The ring, I said, quiet. Leave it on the counter with the key. She twisted it off, set it on the bar top. The emerald cut caught the string lights and threw a tiny rainbow onto the granite. She walked inside. Bedroom door closed. People lingered, not out of morbidity, out of something else. Respect, maybe, or solidarity. My college buddy James brought me a plate of food I didn't remember asking for. Derek handed me a fresh glass. Hell of a party, Prescott. Thanks, planned it myself. He clinked his glass against mine. You know, when you told me what you were planning, I thought you were crazy. Thought you'd either chicken out or it'd blow up in your face. And now I think you might be the most patient man I've ever met. 3 weeks. You sat on that for 3 weeks and served dinner and smiled and waited for Saturday. I'm an architect, Derek. We don't rush the timeline. He shook his head, took a drink. Remind me never to cross you. By midnight, the patio was empty. The caterers packed up quietly. They'd witnessed the whole thing and had the professional grace to pretend they hadn't. The string lights still glowed. The Japanese maple rustled in a breeze that smelled like autumn and fresh starts. I sat in my chair, the cedar one I'd built from reclaimed wood 2 summers ago. My chair on my patio in my house, the same patio where I'd proposed, the same flagstone where 62 people had just watched my engagement evaporate. I wasn't sad. I should clarify that. I'd done my grieving weeks ago alone in the quiet hours between discovering the truth and deciding what to do about it. The sadness had come and gone like weather. What remained was structural, sound, ready for whatever got built next. Jessica moved out in 19 hours, didn't even use the full 24. Her mother arrived at 8 a.m. with an SUV and 2 suitcases. I wasn't there. I'd gone to the office, on purpose. I didn't need to see it. The Ring doorbell would capture whatever there was to capture, and I'd watch it later if I ever felt like it. I never did. She took her clothes, her products, the decorative pillows that had been slowly colonizing every surface of my house like a soft, tasteful invasion, left the key on the counter next to the Ring. The closet I'd custom-built was empty by noon. 3 weekends of work. Cedar lining I'd hand-selected. Lighting I'd wired myself. Now just a beautiful, empty room that smelled like fresh wood and a closed chapter. Derek kept me updated on the fallout because Derek treated other people's drama like a spectator sport. Ryan and Olivia's split was, per his reporting, nuclear and immediate. Olivia filed a restraining order within the week, changed locks on her apartment, retained a colleague from her own firm to handle the legal side with the efficiency of a woman who'd been preparing exhibits for a living. Ryan, stripped of both women and whatever credibility his jawline had earned him, did what Ryan types always do, moved to Miami, rented something he couldn't afford, posted sunset photos with captions about new beginnings. LinkedIn still said entrepreneur. Some things don't change. Jessica's social circle cratered. The party footage, yes, someone recorded it, of course someone recorded it, circulated through group chats for weeks. Not publicly posted, just enough, just the right inboxes. Her pharmaceutical contacts suddenly had scheduling conflicts. College friends went quiet. The dinner invitations and girls' night texts dried up like a creek in August. She tried once. A text about a month later. Long. I read the first line, "I know you probably hate me," and deleted the rest without scrolling. You don't reopen a building you've condemned. You just make sure the fencing is up and move on to the next project. 3 months later, I refinished the patio, resealed the flagstone, replaced the string lights with a cleaner design, warmer bulbs, better spacing, added a water feature along the back wall, a simple cascade over stacked slate that masked the street noise and made the whole yard sound like a creek bed. I designed it myself, obviously, built it on a Saturday. No help needed. Olivia texted once. Short, professional, hope you're well, thank you for the invitation, best RSVP I ever accepted. Anytime, you've got good aim. Lawyer hands steady under pressure. That was it. No friendship, no romance. 2 people lied to by the same man, briefly allied, then returned to separate lives with dignity intact. Cleanest relationship I'd ever had, and it lasted 1 evening. The Japanese maple turned amber again that October. I sat under it with a glass of the same wine I'd sipped while my engagement imploded. Same chair, same patio, same man, different life. People ask if I regret how I handled it. The setup, the spectacle, I think about it honestly every time. And every time the answer is no, not because revenge felt good. Revenge is a transaction, and the satisfaction depreciates the moment you walk out of the store. What felt good was the clarity, the clean cut. Jessica couldn't rewrite the story, couldn't gaslight her way out, couldn't tell friends we grew apart or it was mutual. 62 witnesses saw her choose Ryan over me in real time in my home. The truth didn't need my anger. It just needed an audience, and a very well-timed entrance. I took a sip. The water feature murmured. Maple leaves threw amber shadows across the flagstone. I built this, all of it, the house, the patio, the life. And when someone tried to hollow it out from the inside, I didn't crumble. I drew up new plans. That's what architects do. We don't mourn condemned buildings. We design better ones. The last guest left hours ago, but the best version of my life was just walking through the door.
My fiance's family attacked me over false cheating claims. Now, they're all facing assault charges. I, 30M, a regular American guy working a stable office job, believed I had found the love of my life a year ago. We got engaged quietly, just family and a few close friends celebrating at a backyard barbecue. At first, everything felt straightforward. Her family seemed pleasant enough, maybe a bit opinionated, but I didn't mind. I shrugged off their subtle hints about my background or my modest income compared to some flashy folks they knew. I was happy to marry their daughter, and that was all that mattered to me. Then, a few weeks ago, everything changed. On a Sunday afternoon, my fiancée demanded we talk. She showed me a series of photos on her phone. Grainy, poorly lit images of me leaving a restaurant with another woman. I stared in disbelief. The woman in those photos was just a coworker I'd had lunch with. Nothing romantic at all. But my fiancée wouldn't listen. She called me a cheater, screamed that she'd been warned about guys like me. Her tone was vicious, as if every warm moment we'd shared had never existed. Before I could fully process what was happening, her father and two brothers stormed in. They accused me of playing with her heart, of using her, of betraying their family. I tried to explain the misunderstanding, show them text messages proving my coworker was just that, a coworker. But they wouldn't have it. Without hesitation, they attacked me right there in my own living room. Punches flew. A lamp crashed to the floor. I ended up bruised and bloodied, barely able to stand. They left me half-dazed, warning that if I came near their daughter again, they'd do worse. My fiancée stood at the door, arms folded, glaring like I was like some disease. She told me the engagement was off, that I was lucky they didn't break my bones. I was stunned. One moment I'd been planning wedding details, and the next I was facing a rage-filled family assault. Hurt and furious. I went to the hospital to patch up my wounds. The doctor asked if I wanted to report the assault. I hesitated, still in shock, but I knew I'd need to protect myself. I called a lawyer friend who advised me to go to the police and document everything. I filed a police report. The officers seemed sympathetic, took photos of my injuries, noted down names. They told me the investigation could take time, but I had a strong case. My lawyer said these were clear-cut charges of aggravated assault. I knew pressing charges would be no small thing. It would blow everything wide open. But after what they did, I didn't see another choice. A week passed in a numb fog of disbelief. Then I got a call from a distant relative of my fiancée, someone who knew something crucial. "You need to know the whole story," he said quietly. I braced myself. I had no idea just how deep the betrayal ran. The next evening, I met that distant relative, an uncle who lived 2 states over, only coming to town for big family events. We met at a diner off the highway. He looked uneasy, glancing around before speaking. "You deserve the truth," he said quietly. "Your fiancée's mother engineered this. She never liked you, never thought you were good enough. She wanted her daughter to marry her friend's son, a wealthy guy with family connections." I leaned forward, heart pounding. "What does that have to do with these fake cheating photos?" I asked. He sighed. "Her mother hired someone to follow you, snap ambiguous pictures, and twist them into a scandal. She fed lies to your fiancée, told her you'd been seen around town with other women. spread rumors you were living a double life. By the time you got home that day, your fiancée was primed to see you as a villain. Her dad and brothers, well, they're hot-headed. She knew if they believed you cheated, they'd lash out, scare you off. I clenched my fists, anger burning hot. They planned this all to break us up, and now I had bruises to prove how well it worked. I asked if he had any proof. The uncle nodded, sliding me a USB drive. There were text messages I intercepted, sent between the mother and her friend. They talked openly about framing me. The mother's words were clear. She wanted me gone, so her daughter would be free to marry someone more suitable. Disgust rose in my throat. I thanked him and left, hardly tasting my coffee, focused on what I'd do next. Armed with these messages, I met my lawyer again. He listened, jaw tightening. "This changes everything," he said. "We can show conspiracy, malicious intent. It supports your assault case, proves you were targeted under false pretenses." He advised me to hand the evidence to the police. I did, and the detective's eyebrows shot up as he read through the transcripts. Now they had motive, planning, and a violent aftermath. The mother's involvement turned a simple assault case into something more sinister. A few days later, I got a call from my fiancé's father. He sounded nervous, contrite, saying they might have acted rashly. They wanted to meet me to apologize. My lawyer told me not to meet them alone. I refused. Then my fiancé texted me. "I'm so sorry. I was confused. Let's try again, please." Now that the truth was out, they wanted to patch things up, pretend nothing happened. Unbelievable. After smearing my name and attacking me physically, now they spoke of reconciliation. They must have realized the legal trouble they were in. I ignored them. My silence drove them to show up at my apartment's doorstep, knocking, begging. I didn't open the door, just called the police to report harassment. My fiancée called again, leaving a voicemail. I had no idea my mother lied. "Please understand, I was manipulated." Her voice trembled, but I couldn't ignore what she'd done, believing them without proof, turning on me in a heartbeat. I scheduled a meeting with the district attorney handling my assault case. He reviewed the new evidence and nodded grimly. "We can pursue not only assault charges against her father and brothers, but also conspiracy and possibly attempted extortion if we find financial arrangements tied to that arranged marriage plan." This was serious. Jail time wasn't just a distant threat. It was a likely outcome for them if convicted. The DA seemed confident. He had texts, a witness, the uncle, and my injuries documented by hospital records. The father and brothers had acted on a fabricated scenario, and the mother set it all in motion. As the legal gears turned, I found myself standing firm. My fiancé sent more messages, voice trembling in every voicemail. I was scared of my family. I didn't know what to do. "Please, let's talk." I listened in silence. If she truly loved me, why did she never ask for my side before letting them beat me? She had a moment to choose trust over blind rage, and she failed. Now, with the truth out, she wanted forgiveness. But forgiveness wouldn't heal my bruises or erase their betrayal. Her family tried a different tactic. A cousin approached me in my office parking lot, urging me to drop the charges. They made a mistake, he said, palms raised in a pleading gesture. "No one wants a court battle. Just let it go." I refused. A mistake doesn't involve premeditation, lies, and violence. The cousin hinted at compensation. "They'll pay for your medical bills, offer a settlement." I shook my head. I wasn't interested in hush money. They deserved a fair trial. And if found guilty, they deserved the punishment the law prescribed. Soon enough, my lawyer told me the police made arrests. The father and brothers were picked up for assault and battery. The mother was taken in for questioning about the conspiracy. The fiancé wasn't arrested. She hadn't directly assaulted me, but her credibility was shot. I heard that while under questioning, the mother tried to play innocent, claiming she only encouraged her family to protect her daughter's honor. The police had the text, though, showing how she egged them on, planned the fake evidence, and arranged the timing. The father and brothers tried to say they were just defending their daughter's dignity. But the detectives didn't buy it. They knew the difference between defending honor and orchestrating a violent ambush. My fiancée grew desperate. She begged me to meet at a cafe near the courthouse. Against my lawyer's advice, I agreed, so long as I could bring a friend to witness. She arrived looking worn, eyes rimmed red. "I've lost everything," she sobbed. "My family's facing charges. We might lose our home. Please, can't we solve this outside of court?" I stared at her across the table, remembering how easily she believed the worst of me. Her apology fell flat. She had chosen her side when she let them pummel me over a fabricated rumor. I leaned forward, speaking quietly, so my friend could hear. "You believe a lie without giving me a chance. You stood by while they assaulted me." I was left bleeding on the floor. "Now that the truth is exposed, you want me to drop it and move on?" She sobbed, hands trembling. "I was scared of my parents. My mother insisted you were cheating. She said your coworker lunches proved it. I didn't know what to believe." I shook my head. "If you loved me, you'd have asked for my side. You would have demanded proof, confronted me calmly. Instead, you let them beat me. Now you've faced the law, not because of me, but because of what you all chose to do." She tried reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm pressing charges. I'm going through with this. They deserve to face the consequences of their crimes. If you think love means turning a blind eye to violence and lies, then you never understood me at all." She broke down crying. She begged again, but I was done. I stood up, left her at that table, and returned home. In the following weeks, the legal process unfolded. The father and brothers were indicted for assault. The mother faced conspiracy charges. The DA was confident, and my lawyer kept me informed. The family, once so proud and entitled, now squirmed under the scrutiny of the justice system. They tried everything: plea deals, sob stories, but the evidence was too strong. On the day of the trial, I testified calmly, describing the assault and the deception leading up to it. The jury saw the photos of my injuries, read the text messages revealing the mother's plan. They heard testimony from the uncle who'd come forward. They listened to the defense try to spin it as a misunderstanding. But the facts were undeniable. The verdict: guilty. The father and brothers received prison sentences for aggravated assault. The mother got time for conspiracy. They would all have permanent criminal records. My former fiancée, though not criminally charged, lost her standing in the community. People knew what happened. She tried to contact me after the sentencing, but I blocked her number. I refused to entertain any more pleas. In the aftermath, I reclaimed my life. The bruises healed, and I began to trust myself again. I learned a painful lesson. Love without mutual respect and trust isn't love at all. Justice prevailed this time, proving that schemes built on lies and brute force can collapse under the weight of truth. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. My fiancé's pre-wedding contract demanded 40% of my income, so I exposed her at the altar. I'm 28. I had always believed that love and trust were the cornerstones of any meaningful relationship. Growing up, I was taught that honesty and understanding were non-negotiable elements of genuine connection. My parents modeled this in their own marriage, showing me how two people could build a life together through mutual respect and open communication. But life has a way of challenging our most fundamental beliefs, and my story is a testament to how quickly trust can crumble when manipulation takes root. When I first met Chelsea at a mutual friend's housewarming party 3 years ago, there was an instant connection that felt almost magnetic. She had this way of making everyone around her feel seen and heard, but when she focused her attention on me, it felt like the rest of the world faded away. We'd spend hours talking about everything and nothing, sharing our dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. Chelsea was passionate about education and had been teaching elementary school for 5 years. She spoke about her students with such warmth and dedication that I couldn't help but admire her commitment to shaping young minds. The topic of family came up naturally as our relationship progressed. Chelsea was clear about her desire to be a stay-at-home mom once we had children. She painted beautiful pictures of creating a warm, nurturing home environment, being present for every milestone, and dedicating herself fully to raising our future family. Given my stable career in tech and my growing success in the industry, it seemed like a perfectly reasonable arrangement. I could provide the financial stability while she created the home life we both dreamed about. Looking back now, I realized there were subtle signs I chose to ignore. When discussions about money came up, Chelsea would often deflect or change the subject. She never seemed interested in the details of financial planning or budgeting, always saying she trusted me to handle that aspect of our lives. At the time, I interpreted this as confidence in my ability to provide, but now I understand it was part of a larger pattern of avoidance and manipulation. The proposal itself was a moment of pure joy. We moved in together shortly after, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. We began planning our wedding, discussing our future, and building what I thought was a solid foundation for our life together. Chelsea threw herself into wedding preparations with enthusiasm, and I was happy to see her so excited about our future. Her mother, Donna, was heavily involved in the planning, which didn't strike me as unusual at first. Many mothers and daughters bond over wedding preparations, right? But as the wedding drew closer, I began noticing subtle shifts in Chelsea's behavior. She became more withdrawn when it came to discussions about our future finances, and her mother seemed to be increasingly present in our lives. Donna would often make comments about financial security and the importance of protecting assets in marriage. These comments felt odd at the time, but I brushed them off as a mother's natural concern for her daughter's well-being. Then came the night that changed everything, the evening before our wedding. I was in my apartment, going through my vows one last time, when Donna showed up unannounced. She didn't have her usual warm smile or the friendly demeanor I'd grown accustomed to. Instead, she carried herself with a businesslike formality that immediately set me on edge. Without any preamble, she produced a document from her designer handbag and placed it on my coffee table. "This is just a formality," she said, her voice carrying a note of authority that I'd never heard before. "Something to ensure everyone's protected." As I began reading the document, my stomach dropped. It wasn't just any contract. It was a detailed financial agreement that would require me to allocate 40% of my monthly income directly to Chelsea, starting from our wedding day. The contract was comprehensive, including clauses about future raises, bonuses, and even potential inheritance. It was clear this hadn't been thrown together at the last minute. It was a carefully crafted document designed to ensure Chelsea's financial control over our future together. My hands were shaking as I looked up at Donna. "Why are you bringing this to me now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why wasn't this discussed months ago?" Donna's response was practiced, almost rehearsed. "Chelsea needs security," she explained, as if speaking to a child. "Once she becomes a stay-at-home mom, she'll be completely dependent on you. This is just insurance, surely you understand that." But I did understand, I understood all too well. This wasn't about security, it was about control. The timing wasn't accidental either. They had waited until the night before the wedding, when everything was paid for, when guests had flown in from across the country, when backing out would cause maximum chaos and embarrassment. It was a calculated move designed to leave me with no choice but to comply. I immediately called Chelsea, my heart pounding in my chest. When she arrived at my apartment, her reaction to my distress was perhaps more revealing than the contract itself. Instead of showing surprise or concern about her mother's actions, she seemed annoyed that I was making such a big deal out of it. "It's just a piece of paper," she said dismissively, perching on the edge of my couch. "If you love me, you'll sign it. Don't you trust me?" Those words, using love as leverage, wielding trust as a weapon, they cut deeper than any contract could. In that moment, I saw our relationship for what it truly was, a carefully constructed facade built on manipulation and control. Still, I didn't walk away immediately. The weight of expectation, the sunk cost of our relationship, and my own fear of causing pain kept me frozen in place. I signed a contract that night, feeling a piece of my self-respect die as I did so. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, but I felt anything but bright inside. As I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my tie, I caught sight of my reflection and barely recognized the man staring back at me. The contract sat heavy in my pocket, a physical reminder of my compromise. The ceremony began as planned. Chelsea looked beautiful walking down the aisle, but all I could see was the manipulation behind her smile. When it came time for our vows, something inside me snapped. I couldn't continue this charade. Instead of reciting the words we'd practiced, I pulled out the contract. My hands were steady now, my voice clear as I began reading it aloud to our assembled guests. The gasp that went through the crowd was audible, but I kept reading. They needed to understand what was really happening here. This isn't a marriage, I announced, looking directly at Chelsea. This is a business transaction, and I'm not for sale. The chaos that erupted was exactly what I'd feared, but somehow, I felt lighter than I had in months. Chelsea's face contorted with rage and embarrassment. Donna tried to rush forward to stop me, and various family members were shouting different things. But for the first time in months, I felt completely clear about what I needed to do. I tore the contract into pieces, letting them flutter to the ground like confetti. Without another word, I walked back down the aisle and out of the church. I could hear the commotion behind me, but I didn't look back. My car was waiting outside, and I got in and drove away, leaving behind not just a wedding, but a life built on false premises and manipulation. The aftermath was exactly as messy as you might expect. Both families were furious, though for different reasons. Chelsea's family painted me as the villain, spreading stories about how I'd humiliated their daughter and destroyed her special day. My own family, while understanding my reasons, struggled with the public nature of my exit. Friends took sides, social media exploded with various versions of the story, and for a while, it felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. But amidst the chaos, I found clarity. The messages and calls from Chelsea and her mother confirmed everything I needed to know about my decision. There was no remorse, no acknowledgement of their manipulation, only anger at being exposed and thwarted in their plans. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life and understanding how I'd allowed myself to get into that situation in the first place. Therapy helped me recognize the patterns of manipulation I'd overlooked and the red flags I'd ignored. I learned that love shouldn't require legal contracts or financial commitments forced under duress. Real love is built on trust, respect, and honest communication. Now, 3 years later, I can look back on that day with gratitude rather than regret. Yes, it was dramatic. Yes, it caused pain and embarrassment. But it also taught me invaluable lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. I've learned that true love doesn't try to trap you or control you. It doesn't present ultimatums disguised as security measures. Real love empowers both partners to grow together, to build trust naturally, and to face challenges as a team, not as adversaries. The experience has made me more cautious, but not cynical. I still believe in love and partnership, but now I understand that these must be built on a foundation of genuine trust and mutual respect. I've learned to pay attention to actions rather than words, to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, and to have the courage to walk away when necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to say no to ourselves, to others, and to situations that compromise our integrity. It's not always easy, and it's rarely comfortable, but it's essential for maintaining our self-respect and personal truth. My story isn't just about a wedding that didn't happen or a contract that was torn up. It's about learning to value yourself enough to refuse manipulation, even when it comes disguised as love. It's about having the courage to walk away from something that looks perfect on the surface, but is deeply flawed at its core. Today, I'm sharing this story not to vilify Chelsea or her mother, but to help others recognize the importance of trusting their instincts and standing up for their principles. Love should lift us up, not bind us down. It should bring out the best in us, not reduce us to legal clauses and financial obligations. As I continue on my journey, I carry these lessons with me. They've shaped how I approach relationships, how I value myself, and how I define love. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most important growth. And sometimes walking away from what we thought we wanted leads us exactly where we need to be. The contract may have been torn to pieces, but my sense of self-worth and integrity remained intact. And in the end, that's worth more than any relationship built on manipulation and control. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.
My girlfriend told me I don't get to have opinions about her plans because we're not married, so I stopped treating her like a wife. I've been with Tessa for about a year and a half. She moved into my condo 8 months ago. I'm a civil engineering tech at a transportation firm, nothing glamorous but stable. I bought this one-bedroom place 3 years ago, finally having something that's mine. Tessa's a Pilates instructor and wellness influencer. She's got like 8,700 followers on Instagram, does brand partnerships, that whole thing. She also has this trio of friends, Ava, Brooke, and Leela. I call them the hummingbirds because they're constantly buzzing around, never still, always moving in a pack, and they practically live here now. I'm not exaggerating. They're here 3-4 nights a week. Ring lights in my living room, tripods blocking the hallway, sample drops covering my kitchen counter, when brands send free products and they all have to photograph them at the same time. There's kombucha brewing on my countertops. My living room furniture got rearranged into this conversation circle setup. They call it their creative space. I've been pretty chill about it. I work long hours anyway, and when I'm home, I usually retreat to the bedroom or my laptop. Conflict's not really my thing. I figured it was temporary, that Tessa was building her brand and needed the support. Here's where it gets messy. Last week, I bought tickets to an Avalanche game for this Saturday and made a reservation at Tavernetta afterward. I've been pulling late nights on a bridge design deadline, and I wanted a real weekend with just us. Just me and Tessa doing something normal together. I was excited about it. Mentioned it to her twice during the week, sent her a text with the game time. She said sounds fun both times. Friday morning, I was making coffee, thinking about the weekend, and Tessa came out of the bedroom with her duffel bag already packed. So the girls found this amazing a frame in Breckenridge for the weekend, she said, scrolling through her phone. Last minute opening, we're leaving in like an hour. I just stood there with the coffee pot in my hand. We have Avalanche tickets tomorrow and dinner reservations. She didn't even look up from her phone. Oh, right, can you sell the tickets or take someone else? Tess, I specifically planned this weekend for us. That's when she finally looked at me. Jordan, you don't get to have opinions about my plans. We're not married. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm not gonna lie, that hit different. The way she said it, so flat and matter-of-fact, like she'd been thinking about it for a while, like she'd been waiting to use that line. I didn't argue. I just nodded, poured my coffee, and said, "You're right. We're not married." She left an hour later. I heard her and the hummingbirds laughing in the hallway, talking about some sunrise yoga plan they had. I sat on my couch, on what used to be my couch before it got rearranged, and something just clicked in my brain. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. If I don't get a say because we're not married, then she doesn't get to treat my home like a shared space. She doesn't get wife privileges while keeping boyfriend-level commitment. That cuts both ways. I took my neighbor Ms. Green to the Avalanche game instead. She's this retired family court judge who lives across the hall, dry sense of humor, doesn't miss much. We had a good time. She asked why Tessa wasn't there, and I gave her the short version. Ms. Green looked at me over her beer and said, "So she wants independence without inconvenience, tale as old as time." Then she just raised her glass and said, "To clarity." Yeah, to clarity. Not married means no say, understood. Message received loud and clear. Update 1. It's been almost a week since my original post. Tessa's still in Breckenridge with the hummingbirds. They extended the trip because the energy was too good to leave. She's been posting stories of mountain views and meditation sessions and sponsored protein shake reviews. So here's what I did. And before anyone jumps on me, I didn't destroy anything. I didn't throw her stuff in the street. I didn't change the locks illegally. Everything I did is within my rights as the sole owner and resident of this property. Day 1, Saturday. I started going through the condo room by room. Every item that belonged to Tessa or was part of her content creation setup got carefully boxed and labeled. Ring lights boxed, tripods boxed. The 47 different adaptogen powders cluttering my kitchen boxed. I wasn't angry while I did it. I was methodical, weirdly calm actually. Her clothes and personal items stayed in the bedroom, but everything that had spread into the common areas got packed up. I labeled each box clearly, stacked them all neatly in the second closet. Then I reset the entire smart home system. I removed her profile from the Nest thermostat, from the Sonos speakers, from the smart lock guest codes. I went into all my streaming accounts and kicked off the Hummingbirds profiles, changed my main profile name to just Rent-Free Opinions. Maybe petty? Yeah, probably, but I was following the principle she established. Day 2, Sunday. I moved furniture back to where it used to be. The living room had been arranged in this weird conversation circle that made it impossible to actually watch TV. I put the couch back facing the television like a normal person, pushed the accent chairs back to the corners, took down the full-length ring light-ready mirror she'd mounted on my wall, leaving holes I'll have to patch, but whatever. I deep-cleaned the kitchen, scrubbed the kombucha residue off my counters, organized the cabinets back to something logical, threw out all the opened sample products that had been sitting there for weeks. My kitchen island was visible again. You could actually prepare food on it. Day 3, Monday. I stopped by HomeGoods and bought one of those letter board signs. Set it up on the entry table where you can't miss it when you walk in. I called it the House Charter. 1. Quiet hours after 10 p.m. 2 guests by invitation, not assumption. 3 shared costs equals shared consent. 4. Respect the owner, respect the home. Is it passive-aggressive? Maybe. But it's also crystal clear. No ambiguity about expectations anymore. I also created a shared Google spreadsheet for household expenses. Going forward, if she's staying here, we're splitting groceries and utilities fairly. No more "I'll get you next time" while her friends eat and drink most of what she buys. Everything documented, everything clear. The rest of the week Ms. Green caught me in the hallway on Wednesday carrying out a bag of recycling, mostly empty sample product bottles. She took one look at my face and said, "Ah, the reckoning begins." I gave her the update. She just nodded. I presided over family court for 23 years. You know what the most common theme was? One person thinking they could have it both ways. Commitment when convenient, independence when not. It never works. I haven't heard much from Tessa. She's texted a few times, mostly logistical stuff, asking if I could grab her mail or water her succulents. She doesn't know about any of the changes yet. She's not asking how I am or acknowledging that she bylaid on our plans. The condo feels different now. Bigger, somehow. Quieter, but in a good way. I can actually think here. I've been working on my design project at my reclaimed drafting table, and I forgot how much I enjoyed having a dedicated workspace. Tessa's absolutely right that we're not married. She can make whatever plans she wants. She can live whatever lifestyle she chooses. But she doesn't get to do it in my one-bedroom condo while telling me my opinions don't count. Not anymore. Edit: to clarify, I'm not denying her access. She has keys. She can come back whenever. I just removed the extra privileges, smart home access, streaming profiles for her friends, and restored my home to how I need it to be. Update 2. Tessa got back Sunday evening. I heard the key in the lock, heard her and at least 2 of the hummingbirds in the hallway laughing, that high-pitched, energized chatter. The door opened and the laughter just stopped. She stood in the doorway with her duffel bag, staring at the living room. at the furniture back in normal positions, at the clear counters, at the letter board on the entry table that said quiet hours after 10 p.m. Ava and Brooke crowded in behind her, and I watched all three of them slowly take in the changes. Tessa's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, then dawning realization, then something like anger. What? What is this? What's what? I kept my voice level calm. She gestured around. This, everything. Where are my ring lights? Where's? She walked quickly to the second area. Where's all my stuff? Boxed and labeled in the hall closet. Nothing's damaged. You boxed my things while I was gone. I reorganized my home, yeah. Ava stepped forward, phone already in her hand. This is insane. You can't just erase someone's presence in their own home. I held up a hand. Respectfully, this isn't her home. It's mine. She's not on the deed, not on the mortgage, not on any lease. I have every legal right to organize my own property how I see fit. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Is this because I went to Breckenridge? Are you seriously punishing me for wanting independence? No, I said. I'm not punishing you for wanting independence. I'm respecting what you told me, that I don't get to have opinions about your plans because we're not married. So I exercised my opinions about my own space, in my home. That's not, she stopped, recalibrating. That's not what I meant. You're twisting it. You were pretty clear, Tess. I don't get a say in your life because we're not married, so you don't get default access to structure my home however you want. Fair's fair. Brooke jumped in. This is emotional manipulation. You're creating a hostile environment because she took a weekend trip with friends. Stop. I stood up, keeping my voice even. I'm not doing this with you two. This is between me and Tessa, in my condo. The days of treating this place like your personal studio are done. The look Ava and Brooke exchanged could have frozen water, but they didn't say anything else. Tessa looked between me and them, and I could see her trying to figure out what play to make here. Can we talk? She finally said. Alone, I nodded. Ava and Brooke left, but not without Ava giving Tessa this meaningful look. When the door closed, Tessa sat down on the couch and just stared at the letter board. Respect the owner, respect the home, she read aloud. Jordan, this is extreme. Is it? Because hosting 4 content nights a week without asking me, rearranging my furniture without discussion, having your friends use all my streaming services, that's all fine, but me setting basic boundaries is extreme. I contribute to this household. You contribute maybe $300 a month for groceries that mostly feed your friends. I pay the mortgage, HOA fees, utilities, internet, and all the streaming services you and the hummingbirds have been using. I'm not saying you don't contribute anything, but let's be honest about proportions here. She was quiet for a long moment. So what do you want? An apology? I want mutual respect. I want to be asked, not told. I want my opinion to actually matter in my own home. I just wanted one weekend. You could have had the weekend, Tess. You could have said, hey, I know we have plans, but this opportunity came up and it's really important to me. Can we reschedule? That's partnership. What you did was announce you were going and tell me I don't get to have an opinion about it because we're not married. You used our relationship status as a weapon to dismiss me. Her jaw tightened. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? She didn't have an answer, or maybe she did, but she knew how it would sound. So what now? Her voice was smaller. You want me to move out. I want you to decide what you actually want. If you want to live here, then we need real boundaries. Ava, Brooke, and Leela need to be invited, not assumed. They don't have unlimited access. When they're here, they clean up after themselves. No more 4-night-a-week content sessions without running it by me first. She opened her mouth to argue, but I kept going. Shared weekend rule. If either of us schedules something significant, the other person doesn't get to override it last minute without discussion. We coordinate like partners, or we admit we're not partners. That's fair. That's what people who actually respect each other do. She sat there pulling at a thread on her leggings. I could see the wheels turning. Part of her wanted to fight this, I could tell, but she couldn't quite make it because I wasn't being unreasonable. I was just no longer being a doormat. I need to think about this, she finally said. Okay, can I get my things out of the boxes? They're your things, of course. She got up and went to the hallway closet. Started pulling out boxes, carrying them to the bedroom. Closed the door when she was done. I sat back down with my laptop, but I couldn't focus on work. About 30 minutes later, I started hearing muffled voices from the bedroom. Tessa must have FaceTimed the hummingbirds. It went on for the next hour, Tessa's mixed with theirs, rising and falling, probably dissecting everything I'd said. I made dinner, just for me. Sat at my kitchen island, my clear, organized kitchen island, and ate in peace. Around 9, the bedroom door opened. Tessa came out alone. She looked tired. They left, she said, through the bedroom window down the fire escape. They didn't want another confrontation. Dramatic, I said. She almost smiled, almost. Yeah, you want some dinner? I made extra. She shook her head. I'm not hungry. Pause. Jordan. Do I have a say in this home? It was such a loaded question. I put down my fork. If you're living here as my partner, yes, absolutely, but that means I also have a say. We make decisions together, we coordinate, we respect each other's space and boundaries. That's what having a say means. And if I can't do that, then no, you don't have a say. You'll just be staying here temporarily. She looked around the condo again, seeing it differently now maybe. Seeing it as my space that she'd been allowed into, not as a joint space she had equal claim to. I need a few days, she said finally, to think about what I want. Okay, and I need my boxes back out here. The bedroom's too crowded. I can help you move them to the second area if you want, just not set up, just storage for now. Okay. We moved the boxes together. Didn't talk much, just worked. It felt weird, functional, like we were roommates handling logistics instead of a couple figuring out their relationship. When we finished, she went back to the bedroom. Didn't say good night, just closed the door. Whatever she decides, at least I'll know I stood up for myself. At least I'll know I stopped performing being okay with things I wasn't okay with. That's got to count for something. Final update. I honestly didn't think I'd be back with another update this soon. But the last 48 hours have been absolutely insane. So 2 days after my last post, I'm at my drafting table working on a design revision when I hear the key in the lock. I figure it's Tessa coming back from teaching or wherever she'd been. She'd been staying at the condo, but we'd barely spoken since the weekend conversation. But it's not just Tessa. The door opens and Tessa walks in with Ava and Brooke, all three of them. And Ava's got her phone up, filming. Brooke's recording too. They're already talking as they come in, voices projected like they're performing. And I just need to document what's been happening because people need to know, Tessa's saying, gesturing around my condo. I stand up from my table. What's going on? Tessa points at me, and the phones pivot my direction. This is what I'm talking about. Jordan threw me out of our home and erased my entire life here because I took one weekend trip with friends. He boxed up all my belongings. Whoa, hold on. I keep my voice level. Turn off the cameras. We have every right to document, Ava starts. In my private home, no, you actually don't. Turn them off or leave. They don't. Tessa keeps going, building her narrative. He changed all the locks. I didn't change any locks. You still have your key, which you just used. Removed me from everything, told my friends they're not welcome. I set boundaries in my own home, which you told me I don't get to have opinions about. Brooke chimes in, phone still up. He's financially abusing you, Tess. This is classic control behavior. That's when I'd had enough. I walked to my bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and came back. Pulled up a voice memo file I'd saved, pressed play. Tessa's voice clear as day from Friday morning. Jordan, you don't get to have opinions about my plans. We're not married. I'm not asking for your permission. The room went dead silent. Ava lowered her phone. Brooke's mouth actually fell open. Tessa's face went pale. You recorded me without telling me. Single-party consent state. I was part of the conversation. Perfectly legal. And honestly, I'm glad I did because you just walked in here trying to film some kind of exposé where you play victim. But your own words tell a different story. Ava found her voice. This doesn't change the fact that you threw her out. I didn't throw anyone out. She's been here every night. She has full access. I just stopped providing unlimited resources while being told I don't matter. Brooke tried another angle, but posting this to your wellness vlog, Tess, is going to help other women recognize wellness vlog. I turned to Tessa. Is that what this is? Content? The look on her face told me everything. This whole confrontation was a setup. She was going to film some empowerment moment for her followers, paint herself as the independent woman breaking free from controlling man, get engagement and sympathy and probably some brand deals out of it. Get out, I said. Simple, quiet. All three of you now. You can't. Ava started. I absolutely can. This is my home. You're not on the lease. You're not invited. You're trespassing. Leave or I call the police and show them your footage of breaking into private property to create harassment content. They looked at Tessa. She was frozen, calculating. The audio file had destroyed her narrative. She couldn't post any of this now without looking manipulative. Finally, she grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. This isn't over, she said. Yeah, I replied. It is. They left. I locked the door behind them, sat down on my couch and just breathed. My hands were shaking, but I felt oddly clear-headed. Then I made a call I'd been thinking about for 2 weeks. My firm's been offering overseas contracts for a while now. 6-month to 1-year placements, working on international infrastructure projects. I'd always turned them down because I was settled here, had Tessa, had my condo, had my routine. I called my project manager, asked if any contracts were still open. Turns out they had one starting in 3 weeks, transit system design project in Montreal. Cold as hell, different country, but the pay bump was substantial and honestly, getting out of Denver for a while sounded perfect. I took it, on the spot. Then I contacted a property management company. By Wednesday afternoon, I had a 6-month lease agreement with a young couple relocating for work. They're moving in the week I leave for Canada. Thursday morning, I got a text from Ms. Green. Saw the commotion. You okay? I went over for coffee, told her everything. She listened, didn't interrupt, and when I finished, she just nodded. You're handling this correctly, she said. Document everything. Keep that audio file backed up. And if she posts anything defamatory, you'll have grounds for legal action. She might already have, I said, showed her Tessa's Instagram. Sure enough, there was a post from Wednesday. Some carefully staged photo of Tessa looking contemplative, long caption about recognizing toxic patterns and choosing yourself, and when independence threatens insecurity. No direct accusations, but heavy implications. Comments were full of "you deserve better queen" and men who can't handle strong women. But here's where it got interesting. Ms. Green pointed to one comment thread that had blown up. Someone had apparently leaked the audio. I have no idea how. I didn't share it. But somehow a voice memo of Tessa's exact words ended up in the comments section. The comments section turned. Fast. People started asking questions. Asking why Tessa was painting herself as abandoned when she'd explicitly told her partner his opinions didn't matter. Asking about the timeline. Asking about who actually owned the home. By Thursday evening, Tessa had deleted the post, but screenshots live forever and her follower count had apparently taken a hit. I didn't take pleasure in it exactly, but I didn't feel bad either. Friday afternoon, Tessa showed up at the condo. Alone this time. No cameras, no friends. She looked exhausted. Can I come in? She asked. I let her in. We sat at opposite ends of the couch. Someone leaked the audio, she said, accusatory but tired. Wasn't me. I believe you. Pause. My engagement tanked. I'm losing followers. Brands are asking questions. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? I needed you to be the villain, she finally admitted. For the story to work. For me to be the strong, independent woman breaking free, but you wouldn't cooperate. Because I'm not the villain, Tess. I'm just someone who stopped letting you treat his home like a free studio while his feelings didn't matter. I know. She pulled her knees to her chest. I got caught up in the content, in the brand, in having the right narrative. The hummingbirds kept pushing me to be more authentic, but also more strategic, and I stopped seeing you as a person. You were just set dressing for my life. It was maybe the most honest thing she'd said to me in months. I signed a 6-month contract, I told her, leaving for Montreal in 2 weeks. The condo's leased to new tenants starting the week after I leave. Her eyes went wide. What? I've decided I need a change. So I'm taking one. Where does that leave me? Wherever you decide. You've got 2 weeks to figure out where you're going. I'll give you references for rental applications if you need them, but this chapter, it's done." She sat there processing. I could see her cycling through responses, anger, negotiation, bargaining, but she was too tired to perform any of them. "I really did care about you," she said quietly. "At some point. Before it became about everything else. I know I cared about you too. Maybe I still do a little, but caring isn't enough when there's no respect underneath it." She nodded, started crying softly. Not the dramatic crying I'd seen her do for content, just quiet tears, real ones. "I'm sorry," she said. "For real, not for the vlog, just, I'm sorry. I believe you." We sat like that for a while. Not touching, not comforting each other, just existing in the same space one last time with actual honesty between us. She left an hour later, packed the rest of her things over the weekend while I was out, left her key on the counter with a note that just said, "Thank you for not being worse to me than I deserved." I spent this week getting the condo ready for the new tenants, organizing my life for Montreal, saying goodbye to the few Denver friends I actually have. Ms. Green invited me over for one last dinner before I leave. The new tenants seem nice. Young couple, first time living together outside of dorms, excited and nervous. I told them it's a good space, and it is. Was. Will be again for them, probably. For me, it's time to move on. Time to build something in a place where nobody's narrative requires me to be smaller than I am. Maybe Montreal's freezing. Maybe I'll hate it. Maybe I'll love it, but at least it'll be mine. So that's it. I'm leaving, driving to the airport Sunday, starting something new on Monday. Sometimes freedom's just the sound of your own door closing for the last time. And sometimes that's exactly the sound you need to hear.